In the heart of the Seattle slums, nestled within the unforgiving Redmond Barrens, stood the infamous Jump House Bar. Its neon sign, flickering with an erratic buzz, announced its presence to the Shadowrunners, gang members, and lowlifes who called this place home. The Jump House was the kind of joint where secrets were traded as freely as drinks and trust was a commodity far rarer than cred sticks. It was a place where the dimly lit corners concealed illicit dealings and the raucous laughter of patrons mixed with the occasional gunshot, creating a symphony of chaos. The air was thick with the scent of cheap alcohol, synthetic smoke, and the distant hum of drones patrolling the Barrens. In a dimly lit booth tucked away from the main floor, 3 figures huddled, their faces hidden beneath hoods and cybernetic augmentations. They were known by their call names: Brick, the imposing Troll Street samurai with chrome-laden cyberware; Glimmer, the nimble elven decker with eyes that flickered like data streams; and Thrum, the dwarf shaman with a cloak of mystical energy surrounding him. They were a mismatched trio, united by their shared profession as Shadowrunners and the cold pragmatism that came with it. As they sipped their drinks, they observed the eclectic mix of patrons around them. Gang members from the Cutters, street mages practicing their hexes, and even a few corporate suits looking for illicit thrills, the Jump House welcomed them all without judgment. This was a place where information flowed as freely as the sin beer, and it was here that the runners awaited their contact, the mysterious figure known only as Mr. Johnson. The bar's atmosphere was charged with anticipation, a feeling that was palpable even through the layers of augmented reality overlays and digital distractions. In the shadows, secrets waited to be unearthed, and the runners were about to embark on another dangerous mission in this unforgiving world of 2077 Shadowrun. As the minutes crawled by, the runners couldn't help but feel the weight of their situation. The Jump House's dim ambience seemed to grow even darker, and the distant sound of sirens outside served as a reminder of the ever-present danger in the Redmond Barrens. Then, in the midst of their silent contemplation, a figure approached their booth. The runners instinctively tensed, ready for whatever came next. Mr. Johnson was an enigmatic character, and they knew better than to underestimate the potential threat he might pose. A slender, impeccably dressed man in a tailored suit and fedora had emerged from the shadows. His features were obscured by augmented reality filters, making it impossible to discern his true identity. He carried an air of calculated confidence, his every move suggesting that he had navigated these treacherous waters countless times before. Mr. Johnson slid into the booth, casting a brief, assessing gaze over the runners. It was the kind of look that made it clear he knew more about them than they might be comfortable with. His voice, when he finally spoke, was smooth and modulated, betraying no hint of emotion. "Gentleman and lady," he began, acknowledging them with a nod. "I trust you're well. Your reputation precedes you, and I have a delicate matter that requires your unique talents." Brick, Glimmer, and Thrum exchanged subtle glances. They were no strangers to high-risk operations, but Mr. Johnson's aura of secrecy was enough to give anyone pause. "Cut to the chase, Johnson," Brick rumbled, his cyber-augmented eyes narrowing. "What's the job?" Mr. Johnson didn't waste words. He slid a data chip across the table, a small, unassuming object that held the promise of both danger and opportunity. "Inside this data chip is information regarding a target of utmost importance," he explained. "You are to locate and extract this individual from a highly secure corporate facility within the Redmond Barrens." Glimmer leaned forward, her elven features reflecting a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "And who is this person we're extracting?" Mr. Johnson's lips curved into a wry smile, though it was hidden beneath his augmented disguise. "Let's just say that they possess knowledge that could turn the balance of power in our world. You'll find the details within the chip." Thrum, ever the cautious shaman, voiced their shared concern. "This sounds like no ordinary extraction, Mr. Johnson. What are we up against?" The mysterious figure's gaze never wavered. "Expect formidable security, ruthless opposition, and a labyrinth of digital and magical defenses. But, as always, I am prepared to compensate you generously for your efforts." With that, the Shadowrunner team accepted the mission, taking possession of the data chip that held the key to their next venture. As Mr. Johnson melted back into the jump house shadows, they knew they were stepping into a complex and perilous web of intrigue, their journey into the dark heart of Shadowrun once more set in motion. Back at their well-hidden safe house, the team wasted no time in preparing for the upcoming mission. Their hideout, nestled in the heart of the Redmond Barrens, was a sanctuary from the chaos of the outside world. Crates of gear and weapons, remnants of past runs, lined the walls, and the dim lighting gave the place an eerie, underground atmosphere. Glimmer, the elven decker, set up her array of comlinks and data terminals, creating a virtual battlefield where she could outmaneuver any security system. Her fingers danced across her holographic keyboard as she began her initial foray into the corporate facility's digital defenses. Thrum, the dwarf shaman, meditated in a corner of the room. His eyes were closed and his body swayed gently as he communed with the spirits of the Barrens, seeking their guidance and protection for the mission ahead. He knew that the astral realm held its own dangers and he needed the spirits' favor to navigate them. Brick, the Troll Street samurai, took a moment to inspect his arsenal. His latest addition, a high-powered shotgun delivered by his loyal fixer, was a thing of brutal beauty. The weapon was sleek, with a matte black finish and custom grips, designed for maximum destruction in close quarters. The fixer had promised that this shotgun was one of a kind, boasting modifications that would make it even deadlier in Brick's massive hands. It was a welcome addition to his already formidable firepower, and he knew it might be their best chance at cutting through the expected opposition. As Brick hefted the shotgun, he couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. The Redmond Barrens were a dangerous place, but they were his home turf. And with his team backing him up and his new weapon in hand, he was ready to take on whatever the corporate facility had in store. With their preparations complete, the team gathered around the holographic display table in the center of the safe house. Glimmer's fingers danced across the interface, projecting a detailed schematic of the facility they were about to infiltrate. "We've got a long night ahead of us," Glimmer began, her tone serious. "I've already spotted a few weak points in their security systems, but we'll need to be on our toes. Thrum, keep your senses attuned to the astral plane. I have a feeling there might be magical surprises waiting for us." Thrum nodded, his eyes still closed as he maintained his connection with the spirits. "I'll be our guide through the unseen, watching over us." Brick clenched his new shotgun, a fierce determination in his cyber-enhanced eyes. "Let's not forget why we're doing this. That data chip holds the key to something big, and it's up to us to make sure it falls into the right hands." The team shared a final nod of agreement before diving into their individual tasks, fully aware of the dangers they were about to face. As they prepared to breach the corporate facility, the shadows of the Redmond Barrens closed in around them and the weight of their mission hung heavy in the air. Leaving their safe house behind, the team ventured into the unforgiving streets of the Redmond Barrens, shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. Their target, a heavily fortified corporate facility, loomed on the horizon like a behemoth of steel and concrete, a bastion of power and secrets. Brick led the way, his massive troll form casting a long shadow as he moved with the grace of a predator. His new shotgun was slung over his shoulder, ready to unleash its devastating firepower at a moment's notice. The occasional glow of cyberware implants in his eyes and arms hinted at the dangerous enhancements that made him a force to be reckoned with. Glimmer followed closely, her lithe figure and cyberdeck strapped securely to her back. She kept her senses sharp, scanning for any electronic anomalies or potential threats in the digital realm. Her fingers tapped against the virtual keys of her deck, ready to breach the facility's defenses when the time came. Thrum brought up the rear, his dwarf stature belying the formidable magical prowess he possessed. His eyes remained closed as he walked, his connection to the astral plane allowing him to sense the ebb and flow of magical energies around them. His totem spirit, a gator, whispered guidance in his mind, warning of any supernatural dangers. The Redmond Barrens were a bleak landscape, a place where the dregs of society fought for survival and danger lurked in every corner. Gangs ruled the streets, and the constant threat of violence was a harsh reality. But this team of Shadowrunners was no stranger to adversity. They had carved out a niche in the shadows, making their living by navigating the perilous underbelly of the city. As they neared the corporate facility, the team's tension grew. Glimmer's cyberdeck alerted her to the presence of security drones patrolling the perimeter, their digital eyes scanning for intruders. Thrum sensed the faint traces of magical wards protecting the facility, a clear sign that they were expected. Brick, ever the physical powerhouse, surveyed the surrounding area, identifying potential entry points and escape routes. His augmented reflexes and combat skills made him a formidable asset ready to spring into action at the first sign of trouble. With their preparations complete, the team huddled together for a final briefing, hidden in the shadows of a decaying building overlooking their target. The time had come to breach the corporate fortress, retrieve the data chip, and expose the dark secrets within. The mission was underway, and the fate of the Redmond Barrens hung in the balance. As they steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, one thing was certain: the shadows would not yield their secrets easily, and the runners would need all their skills and determination to succeed. With the facility looming before them, the team activated their gear and began the infiltration. They knew that the first few moments would be crucial, and any misstep could lead to disaster. Brick took point, his massive form ducking behind a stack of rusted shipping containers as he scouted the area ahead. His sharp troll eyes picked up the movement of security drones patrolling the perimeter. With a swift motion, he signaled for the team to wait. Glimmer crouched low, her cyberdeck already humming to life. She focused her attention on the drone's electronic signatures, searching for weaknesses in their programming. As one of the drones passed close to their position, she executed a quick and precise hack, disabling its sensors and rendering it temporarily blind. Thrum remained in the astral plane, his senses attuned to the magical barriers that surrounded the facility. His gator totem guided him, allowing him to identify the weakest point in the wards. He relayed the information to Glimmer, who transmitted it to Brick. With the path now clear of electronic surveillance and magical interference, Brick signaled the team to move forward. They advanced in a tight formation, shadows concealing their every step. As they approached the facility's outer wall, Brick used his immense strength to lift a heavy metal grate, revealing a concealed maintenance tunnel beneath. The team descended into the darkness, the faint hum of the facility's machinery echoing around them. Their goal lay deeper within, hidden behind layers of security and corporate secrets. They knew they had to tread carefully, for the slightest mistake could trigger alarms and bring the facility's guards down upon them. Glimmer's cyberdeck became their guiding light as they navigated the labyrinthine tunnels. Her fingers danced across the keys, bypassing security protocols and unlocking doors that stood in their way. Thrum continued to monitor the magical barriers, ensuring they remained undetected by the facility's astral security. As they reached the heart of the facility, they encountered their first human obstacle, a lone security guard making rounds. Brick acted swiftly, his cyberware-enhanced reflexes allowing him to disarm the guard before he could sound the alarm. With a quick and precise strike, the guard fell silent, unconscious but alive. They knew that their actions were on a tight schedule. They couldn't afford to linger, and the tension in the air was palpable as they pressed on. The data chip they sought contained information that could expose the corporate conspiracy threatening the Redmond Barrens, and failure was not an option. Their infiltration had begun smoothly, but the true challenges lay ahead. The facility's inner sanctum, where the data chip was stored, remained heavily guarded and shrouded in mystery. The team steeled themselves for what lay ahead, for the shadows held their secrets tightly and the runners were determined to wrest them free. Brick moved with the precision and grace of a seasoned Shadowrunner, his massive form a paradox of silent lethality. As the two security guards rounded a corner, unaware of the impending danger, he struck like a phantom in the night. In one swift and fluid motion, Brick's powerful hands closed around their throats, his cyberware-enhanced grip crushing windpipes and silencing any cry for help. The guards struggled briefly, their eyes wide with terror, but the troll's strength was overwhelming. Their lives were extinguished with a grim finality as Brick snapped their necks, ensuring they would never raise an alarm or pose a threat again. He gently lowered their lifeless bodies to the cold, sterile floor, the darkness of the facility's interior swallowing their existence. The rest of the team watched in awe of Brick's deadly efficiency. There was no room for sentimentality in the world of Shadowrunning, and the grim reality of their mission weighed heavily on them. The guards had been mere pawns in a larger game, and the team had no choice but to press on. With the guards dispatched, they continued their advance deeper into the heart of the facility. The data chip they sought was now closer than ever, and the tension in the air grew thicker with each step. They knew that they were getting closer to uncovering the truth behind the corporate conspiracy that threatened their home, the Redmond Barrens. As they moved through the facility's dimly lit corridors, Glimmer's cyberdeck continued to unlock doors and disable security systems, ensuring their path remained clear. Thrum remained vigilant in the astral plane, his gator totem guiding them safely past magical wards and barriers. Their journey had already been filled with challenges and risks, but the runners were determined to see it through. They had entered the lion's den, fully aware of the dangers that lurked within, and they were prepared to face whatever obstacles the shadows had in store for them. In the dimly lit facility, as the team moved closer to their objective, the feeling of unease hung in the air like a heavy fog. The silence was shattered by the blaring klaxons and the pulsating red emergency lights that filled the corridor. Something had gone terribly wrong. Brick, Glimmer, and Thrum exchanged nervous glances as the facility's automated defenses came to life. Turrets emerged from concealed compartments, their barrels swiveling to lock onto intruders. Drones soared overhead, their mechanical eyes scanning for any signs of unauthorized entry. What the frag just happened? Brick growled, his cyberware-enhanced senses on high alert. I thought you said this place was going to be a cakewalk, Glimmer. Glimmer frantically typed commands into her cyberdeck, trying to regain control over the security systems. I don't know. Something triggered the alarms. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Thrum's astral senses picked up a disturbance as malevolent spirits were drawn to the chaos. We've attracted unwanted attention from the astral plane as well. Be ready for a fight, chummers. The team was now caught in a deadly crossfire with automated defenses closing in from all sides. They sought cover in the narrow corridors, exchanging gunfire with turrets and drones while trying to maintain their composure. But as they fought their way deeper into the facility, another unexpected twist awaited them. The data vault they had been targeting was empty, stripped clean of any incriminating evidence. It was as if someone had known they were coming and had cleared out the evidence beforehand. This whole fragging mission was a setup. Brick bellowed, his frustration and anger boiling over. We've been played. Glimmer's fingers flew across her cyberdeck as she tried to trace the source of the intrusion and locate the missing data. I'll find out who did this, I swear it. But for now, we need to get out of here alive. As they retraced their steps back through the labyrinthine corridors, the facility's defenses seemed to intensify. The team was running low on ammunition and magical energy, and their path was blocked by a reinforced security door. With the hostile forces closing in, Thrum made a fateful decision. He summoned the spirits he had forged a connection with, trading his own life force to breach the security door and create a temporary astral rift for his teammates to escape through. The team rushed through the portal, leaving Thrum behind as the door sealed shut, trapping him with the malevolent spirits and the approaching security forces. His sacrifice had bought them precious moments to flee. As they emerged from the facility, bruised, battered, and haunted by the loss of their friend, the runners knew they had been used as pawns in a much larger game. The shadows had grown darker, and the corporate conspiracy they had uncovered only deepened. Brick, Glimmer, and Thrum had faced the worst that the shadows could throw at them, and the scars of that night would stay with them forever. But in the world of shadowrunning, there was rarely room for closure, only the relentless pursuit of the truth and survival in the face of overwhelming odds. As they regrouped in a safe house far from the facility, the anger and frustration that simmered within Brick and Glimmer burned hotter than ever. Thrum's sacrifice had been a painful reminder of the treacherous nature of their profession, and they vowed to uncover the truth behind the setup that had nearly cost them their lives. Brick clenched his cybernetic fists, his troll-sized frame towering over the room. I don't care who's behind this fragging mess, but they're gonna pay. Nobody uses us like that and gets away with it. Glimmer nodded, her eyes flashing with determination as she continued to analyze the data from her cyberdeck. I've been digging through the traces left behind by the intrusion. It's gonna take time, but I'll find out who pulled the strings. And when I do, they won't know what hit him. The runners knew they couldn't tackle this vendetta alone. They needed allies, resources, and a plan to unravel the conspiracy that had ensnared them. Brick reached out to his fixer, a well-connected contact in the Shadowrunning community, to gather information and track down potential leads. Days turned into weeks as they pieced together a complex web of corporate interests, shadowy figures, and rival factions. The more they uncovered, the more dangerous their quest for revenge became. They found themselves targeted by mysterious operatives who seemed determined to silence them. The team's journey took them to the darkest corners of the city, where they encountered ruthless mercenaries, double-crossing informants, and morally ambiguous allies. Glimmer's skills as a decker became invaluable as she hacked into secured networks and uncovered damning evidence that would expose the conspiracy. Brick's street-smart instincts and combat prowess allowed them to survive numerous ambushes and close encounters with hired killers. He became a formidable force, his cyberware enhancements pushed to their limits as he vowed to protect his team at any cost. The more they dug, the clearer the motives behind the setup became. It was a power play among megacorporations, each vying for control over a new, revolutionary technology that had the potential to reshape the world. And somewhere in the shadows, a figure known only as the Puppet Master pulled the strings, orchestrating the chaos. With each revelation, Brick and Glimmer's thirst for revenge intensified. They knew that taking down the Puppet Master would be a perilous task, one that would require them to confront not only the criminal underworld but also the corporate giants that ruled the world. As they prepared for the final confrontation, the team knew that their chances of survival were slim. But they were Shadowrunners, forged in the crucible of betrayal and deception. They had faced the abyss, and they were ready to stare it down one more time, driven by a burning desire for justice and vengeance. The shadows whispered promises of retribution, and Brick and Glimmer were more than willing to answer the call. The stage was set for a showdown that would either bring them redemption or consume them in the darkness that lurked at the heart of the shadows. With their resolve steeled and a growing list of adversaries to confront, Brick and Glimmer knew they had to prepare meticulously for the impending showdown. The safe house became their fortress, a place where they could regroup, plan, and arm themselves for the battle that lay ahead. Brick's new shotgun, a high-powered and customized weapon, arrived courtesy of his fixer. It was a sleek, deadly instrument complete with cybernetic targeting enhancements and a devastating payload. He spent hours inspecting, cleaning, and familiarizing himself with every detail of the firearm, determined to make every shot count. Glimmer, on the other hand, continued to dive deep into the digital underworld. Her cyberdeck, a sleek and menacing piece of technology, hummed with life as she worked tirelessly to bypass security systems, decrypt data, and uncover the secrets that could lead them to the Puppet Master. Her fingers danced across the holographic keys, leaving trails of code in her wake as she hacked into restricted corporate databases. Their safe house was strewn with gear and weapons, each carefully selected for the challenges they would face. Ammunition, explosives, and medical supplies were meticulously organized, while cyberware enhancements received last-minute adjustments to ensure they functioned flawlessly in the heat of battle. Thrum's absence hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the stakes involved. His shamanic wisdom and magical abilities were irreplaceable, leaving a void that neither Brick nor Glimmer could fill. Yet, they carried his spirit with them, determined to honor his memory by seeking justice. As the hours turned into days, Brick and Glimmer also reached out to contacts and allies from their past, recruiting a team of Shadowrunners who had their own scores to settle with the Puppet Master. Together, they formed a loose alliance, united by a common enemy and the burning desire to bring down the mastermind behind the conspiracy. The team's strategy was simple but effective. They would strike at the heart of the corporate power structure, infiltrating a secret meeting where the Puppet Master was rumored to be making a crucial deal. It was a high-risk, high-reward plan, and they knew that the odds were stacked against them. With the final preparations complete and a sense of grim determination in their hearts, Brick, Glimmer, and their newfound allies embarked on a dangerous journey into the heart of the corporate beast. The shadows had called them to action once more, and this time they were ready to answer with everything they had. The world of Shadowrun was a place where danger lurked around every corner, but Brick and Glimmer were no strangers to its treacherous streets. The stage was set for a final reckoning, and the shadows themselves seemed to hold their breath in anticipation of the clash that was about to unfold. Amid the opulent and dimly lit conference room, the atmosphere changed in an instant as the team crashed the meeting with unrelenting violence. Brick, the towering Troll Street samurai, was the harbinger of chaos. He burst through the heavy doors, shotgun in hand, and the room was instantly engulfed in pandemonium. The corporate executives, who moments before were engrossed in their nefarious dealings, found themselves staring down the barrel of Brick's menacing shotgun. Panic and fear gripped them as they scrambled to react. There was no time for negotiation or mercy, only the brutal dance of death in the shadows. With the deafening roar of the shotgun, the room was painted with blood and shattered glass. Bodies crumpled like rag dolls, their expensive suits stained crimson. The impact of Brick's gunfire sent shockwaves through the room, as if the very foundations of the corporate empire were shaking. Glimmer, the enigmatic female elf decker, worked her digital sorcery in tandem with the chaos unfolding on the physical plane. Her cyberdeck danced with malicious glee as she seized control of the room's security systems. Emergency alarms blared, strobe lights cast eerie shadows, and the once secure meeting place devolved into a nightmarish battlefield. The team's entry had disrupted the careful facade of corporate order, unleashing a maelstrom of violence. Desperate cries for help mixed with the guttural roar of Brick's shotgun blasts, creating a symphony of terror and brutality. Amid the chaos, the corporate guards, trained for corporate espionage and security, attempted to retaliate, but their resistance was futile. Brick moved like an unstoppable force, his shotgun blasting apart any semblance of opposition. Limbs were severed, bodies disintegrated, and the room became a gruesome tableau of carnage. Those who survived the initial onslaught sought refuge behind overturned tables and cowering in the corners of the room. They were no longer executives of power and influence, they were survivors in a brutal war zone. Glimmer's synthesized voice cut through the bedlam, a haunting reminder of the Shadow's relentless pursuit. "This is the end," she intoned with an eerie calmness. "For those who thought they could hide in the shadows, the darkness has come for you." As the team closed in on their targets, the remaining corporate executives, their arrogance shattered, were paralyzed by terror. The puppeteers of the corporate world were now puppets themselves, mere pawns in the grander scheme of the shadows. In the midst of the violence and brutality, Brick and Glimmer knew that their mission was far from over. The true depths of the conspiracy, the dark secrets they sought to uncover, still lay hidden, waiting to be unearthed. This chaotic showdown was just the beginning of a relentless pursuit through the shadowy corridors of power. With the echoes of violence still ringing in their ears, Brick and Glimmer continued their relentless rampage through the corporate meeting room. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder, and the room bore witness to the horrifying transformation from a den of shadowy deals to a gruesome battlefield. Brick, his troll-sized frame radiating raw power, moved like a force of nature. His shotgun was an extension of his will, and he swept it through the room with deadly precision. One after another, corporate security personnel fell before him, their futile attempts at resistance cut short in a symphony of brutality. Glimmer, the enigmatic elf decker, weaved her digital sorcery with unmatched finesse. Her cyberdeck's holographic interface projected a web of deadly code into the room's security systems. Alarms wailed, sprinklers doused the panicked executives, and the lighting alternated between blinding strobes and sinister shadows. It was a nightmarish dance of chaos she orchestrated with ruthless efficiency. The surviving corporate executives, those who had managed to find shelter behind overturned tables or cowered in corners, were now paralyzed by a combination of terror and disbelief. They watched in horror as their world of corporate privilege crumbled around them, and they had become unwilling participants in the team's relentless vendetta. Amidst the ongoing carnage, Brick and Glimmer moved with eerie synergy. They communicated through unspoken cues, anticipating each other's movements. Brick's massive form provided cover for Glimmer as she continued to manipulate the room's security systems, leaving their adversaries trapped in a digital nightmare. The corporate guards, trained for corporate espionage and security, could do little but futilely return fire. Their efforts were like swatting at a hurricane, pointless and doomed. Limbs were severed, bodies disintegrated, and the once secure meeting place bore no resemblance to its former self. As the team closed in on their remaining targets, the surviving corporate executives, once powerful puppeteers of the corporate world, were now reduced to terrified pawns. They realized that there was no escape from the shadows they had so willingly embraced. In this brutal showdown, they were simply casualties of a larger, unforgiving game. Glimmer's synthesized voice, cutting through the bedlam, delivered a haunting message that resonated with the survivors. "This is the price of your secrets," she intoned with chilling finality, "and the shadows have come to collect." With the room now firmly under their control, Brick and Glimmer knew that their mission was far from over. The true depths of the conspiracy, the dark secrets they sought to uncover, still remained elusive. The trail of blood they had left behind was just the beginning of a relentless pursuit through the shadowy corridors of power, where truth was the ultimate prize and betrayal the gravest sin. In the aftermath of the violent confrontation within the corporate meeting room, a chilling silence settled over the once opulent space. The survivors, both members of the Shadowrunning team and the corporate executives, stared at the carnage around them, grappling with the horrors they had just witnessed. Brick, his massive shotgun still smoking, turned to Glimmer, his trollish features contorted with rage. "This ain't over, Glimmer. We've got blood to spill, and I ain't leaving until we get answers." Glimmer, her face concealed behind a digital mask of serenity, nodded in agreement. They thought they could play with shadows without getting burned. They were wrong. Thrum, the team's dwarf shaman, watched the exchange with a mix of concern and determination. "We can't forget why we came here in the first place," he reminded them. "Mr. Johnson has answers we need." With grim resolve, the team advanced deeper into the corporate building, leaving behind the gruesome tableau of violence they had wrought. Their steps echoed through hallways that had once been pristine symbols of power but were now stained with the blood of the guilty. As they ventured further into the heart of the corporate labyrinth, the team encountered a series of locked doors, secure data terminals, and concealed chambers. Each obstacle was a testament to the secrets that lay hidden within the corporate enclave. Glimmer worked her digital magic, deftly bypassing security protocols and uncovering a trail of encrypted data. It was a trail that led directly to the shadowy figure known as Mr. Johnson. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became that the team's mission had never been a simple extraction. It had been a carefully orchestrated trap, with Mr. Johnson pulling the strings. The revelation sent shivers down their spines. The very person who had hired them, who had promised answers, was now their adversary. The shadows had deceived them, leading them down a treacherous path filled with violence and betrayal. As they approached Mr. Johnson's supposed location, a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. Brick's shotgun remained at the ready, and Glimmer's cyberdeck hummed with newfound urgency. Thrum, clutching his totem, felt the weight of the choices they were about to make. The final door loomed before them, and beyond it, they knew their destiny awaited. The shadows had never been darker, and the truth they sought was buried deep within the heart of corporate darkness. In the Shadowrun universe, where power and deception intertwined, the team had to decide whether to confront Mr. Johnson and risk everything, or fade back into the obscurity of the shadows, forever haunted by the unknown. Mr. Johnson stood in the dimly lit room, his face concealed by shadows as the team confronted him. The revelation that Thrum had been the true target of the mission hung in the air like a noose, tightening around their collective resolve. "You played us, Mr. Johnson." Glimmer's voice was laced with anger. Brick, shotgun still in hand, clenched his cyber-augmented fists. "You took us for fools, but you underestimated us." Mr. Johnson stepped further into the light, revealing a cold, calculating smile. "In the world of shadows, information is power. Thrum was a threat to certain interests. I needed him out of the way, and you, my dear runners, served that purpose." With a sudden, swift motion, Glimmer's cyber deck came to life. She hacked into Mr. Johnson's augmented reality interface, extracting critical data about the corporate conspiracy he had been orchestrating. The truth spilled onto her digital display, confirming the extent of his deception. Brick's finger twitched on the trigger of his shotgun, but Thrum placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "Violence won't solve this, my friends. We have the information we need. Mr. Johnson, realizing his precarious situation, began to negotiate. You have the data, but what do you intend to do with it? You could expose everything, bring down powerful corporations. Glimmer leaned in closer, her digital mask reflecting her intensity. We're not saviors, Mr. Johnson. We're survivors. We'll take our payment and you'll leave this place knowing you've met the Shadow's justice. With a bitter smirk, Mr. Johnson transferred the agreed-upon payment into the team's secured accounts. The transfer was completed, but the tension in the room remained palpable. As he turned to leave, Glimmer spoke with a chilling finality. You underestimated the Shadows, Mr. Johnson. And now you've met the darkness you thought you could control. Without another word, Brick raised his shotgun, and with a deafening blast, Mr. Johnson's betrayal was sealed in a hail of gunfire. The once mysterious figure crumpled to the ground, leaving behind a lifeless shell. The team's shadows had grown deeper, their actions mirroring the cruel and unforgiving world they navigated. With their payment secured and their target eliminated, they faded back into the obscurity of the Redmond Barrens, knowing that in the world of Shadowrun, the line between justice and vengeance was as thin as the edge of a blade. If you like Shadowrun stories, history, and lore, smash the subscribe button.